Welcome back to the madness, everyone. Welcome to another late night Let's Talk. And tonight, I once again have Failfurby here with me.
Yup. What's
And,
going on?
yep, and yeah, I'm still messing around here on this little gnome on WoW. Do do do. But, yeah, this last week's been crazy. Other than work, what have you been up to? Anything productive?
Yeah, productive. Well, I mean, I am in school, so that technically counts, I guess.
Uh, Other than job fairs myself, I pretty much just got the last 2 days prior to this was just basically an anime binge, and then I was like, oh wait, I need to go finish this, and then I dove right into the fairy tale manga until I finished it, and now I'm back. So, huzzah!
Yeah, I haven't binge. Well, I technically have been watching Criminal Minds, but I tend to keep that on the down low because our other friend kind of gets irritated when I get ahead of her, so I tend to not talk about it.
Yeah,
Welcome.
and we
See you
don't want to
soon.
give too many spoilers and stuff here.
Yeah, spoilers not. Well, I technically am always a season behind, but so she because we both watch it on Netflix. So anything I were to say to people that follow the show would be like, why, how is that a spoiler? So, pretty much impossible for me to give spoilers when I'm, a season behind.
You people and your Netflix. I hasn't had Netflix for years. Like when I came back from Arizona years.
I could fix that. It wouldn't be hard for me to just give you my information.
Hmm. We'll have to discuss this more later, but yeah, I could actually really use something to help watch some stuff. Otherwise, I just go to Crunchyroll when it comes to like anime and stuff. By the way, not
Which is a
sponsored,
nice.
but
Yeah.
really like Crunchyroll. I mean,
Well, I mean, there's a reason that it is the number one site right now. It's a solid site.
and I do like how their formats. I mean, if you have no idea how their streaming is actually encoded, and the reason how come they have those commercials and whatnot in there is because it doesn't load a video as one solid video. Those are like three different videos making up the video.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it comes in such higher quality and so fast, even for the free users, is because it's three miniature videos. So almost any device could actually run that with ease.
Interesting.
But that's just the site itself, and then there's how it actually supports the anime community because that was. Well, we all want to watch it. I won't deny the want and just need to actually go and find the way to watch it. But when everybody runs to like these streaming sites and whatnot that kind of in a way pirate it by throwing it up somewhere, it's kind of starts wrecking the anime community in itself for the peak creators.
It's always best to do things as legally as you can. And honestly, Crunchyroll is one of those things that really should get more support because they do a solid job. But, so many people out there is like, oh, I don't want to pay for it. Well, it's like, well, then you literally get what you're asking for.
Well, and I don't. I like the format that they use too. I mean, there's their free version, so that but then but you get like what is it, like 720p resolution. So it's not the top resolution, which is still a lot better than a lot of resolutions from those free sites. Anyway, they have like a resolution that's so low that it's not really even a resolution. It was like
Right.
320 or something. And then on top of that, the commercials I do have ad blocker turned off for that thing just because I know those commercials actually help pay back the actual not only for the servers that they need but also to the animators and something. So at least I feel like I'm contributing something back to for watching it.
Yeah, and I do the same thing with YouTube. There are a lot of people out there that do ad block, but I've never had ad block on for YouTube at all. The creators, even if they're not my favorite creator or they're not a quote unquote good creator, they're still putting time and effort into it. If they're monetizing their videos, they should be allowed to, monetize their videos. So I've never had ad blocker on YouTube.
I've had actually mine set up to where certain people's videos I can actually turn it off and on really quick as I start the video. So I can give them, at least if I agree with the video, like the person or anything. There's a lot of people I just kind of scope out and like, what's this video about? I'll turn it off, watch it, and if I like it enough, if I like them enough, generally I'll unblock them as well, then go back and watch like the video all over again.
Yeah. Well, and with YouTube, it's one of those platforms that, you vote with your money. If you like a video and you want to see stuff like that again, you got to watch it. And if you don't watch it, you're, just contributing to the problem.
Indeed. And, well, I've been trying to restart something here on YouTube all over again, but honestly, the only time I actually had monetization in my old channel, as just in general, was never even on the Skyrim video. It was anything that I really went and edited.
Right.
And even then, I really didn't get much of anything.
Yeah, well, see, that's one of the things that there are a lot of people out there that see these, big YouTubers like Linus Tech Tips and PewDiePie and, just these people that have literally made a career out of YouTube. They're like, well, why can't I do that? But they don't go about it the right way. They think that it's easy. So when they don't get results fast, they give up, or, they don't think about things like sound quality being more important than video quality. And video quality is easy to fake. I mean, the few YouTube videos I've made, and I've kind of improved them a little bit with some of the stuff I have, but I made them on my phone and with a lot of good lighting. I mean, initially I sucked. I'm not going to lie. But the setup I have in my room right now, it's more about lighting and audio quality than trying to figure out how to shoot in 4K. No one cares about 4K on YouTube. Streaming 4K on YouTube is ridiculously impractical for a lot of people, not just because they don't have the display, but because of how much time it takes to stream and to render and all that stuff. It's not practical. I have a 4K screen. I could watch YouTube in 4K. I don't. I watch it in 1080p because it takes less time and it's still decent quality.
Yeah, I'm getting a blurb. But I want to also throw out there that a lot of times people apparently watch on like their phones or at least like a tablet or something, so that's not automatically not. But YouTube also degrades like the value of your video in general, just because to save their server space, they convert it to their own video format, which is why when you upload a video, it has like a processing window because they're sitting there processing, changing your video from whatever format you threw it into whatever format they want, and it actually loses like a stage of quality.
Much less so recently because of the advent of 4K, and there are a lot of YouTubers out there that have like those red cameras that are shooting in 8K that they downscale to 4K and all that stuff. So it's not as bad as it used to be with YouTube downscaling, but it definitely does happen. So
right. Yeah, sorry, there was a problem with the window that I had to fix real quick. It's fixed though, so we're all good.
okay.
Anyway, so yeah, YouTube does have the do that, but again, you're watching it usually on a tablet. I mean, I watch it on my computer, but then my computer also changes the resolution based off my computer because my computer isn't 1920.
Right.
I mean, how the hell? Yeah, I mean, you can do that for certain screens, but I mean, I have this 38-inch screen that I'm using as my main screen. Then I have a 32-inch on the side. Normally, I'd have a third screen set up, but my grandmother kind of stole it. because she broke her TV. So,
Yeah, that's not good.
and then they think it's actually one of those monitors that actually has outlets for video games, and they just think it's an automatic TV. It doesn't even have a remote, and they complain about that so much. I'm like, it's not a computer. It's a computer monitor.
Yeah, monitors don't have remotes, guys. Just not. It's not a thing. It's just not.
But they don't know the difference between the computer monitor and the thing, and it's like, well, I got parts to click in on the TV. No, it's just because freaking most of the like cable boxes and stuff nowadays went from the cable line thing to an HDMI cable to go into this little box. At least the ones that we get around here is an HDMI cable into a little thing, which I'm laughing at because they had to get completely new TV for their living room in general because it wouldn't connect to the cable box and because it doesn't have the new thing. The new thing requires HDMI cable. Well, the cable on their TV was so old it didn't have an HDMI port.
Yeah, that's actually a fairly new advent. Is the high definition cable boxes and stuff like that. So it's definitely not very common, but they do pop up. So
Yeah, it's just funny watching old people panic over new technology and just not understanding. Not that it's anything
well,
bad on
it's
their part because it's fairly new. It's just common knowledge basically nowadays that we learn in school and stuff, or as we grow up.
hmm yeah, okay, and that there actually are some places where they do teach that kind of stuff in school. I mean, it's an actually legitimate subject sometimes.
Indeed. Ah, die crocodile. I need your jaw. Anyway, so on to continuing on, moving on with everything. I actually got like a list of questions and stuff that we're gonna go through as we go through tonight. And
We'll hit up a few of them.
yeah, and to be perfectly honest with everybody, these are questions I lifted like that I see other streamers and stuff get, like when they get like donated questions for stuff. And that's another thing we forgot to bring up. I want to touch on real quick is that if you have the ability to donate to the stream, a stream of your choice, even giving them $1 is worth so much more than one view. It's almost, yeah, it's pretty monetization wise. That's almost like 1,000 views, just $1. So if you guys ever like see the donation to Patreon thing and you actually want to support them, I mean, for them that $1 covers like 1,000 views. Just saying.
And not to advertise the fact, go out and spend money you don't have. That's not what we're saying.
Oh no,
If you have the wherewithal to contribute to something that you care about and you enjoy, taking part in, show it if you can. And if not, don't worry about it. Turn off ad block and, do what you can there.
yeah. No, I'm not saying go spend it and everything. I'm just saying for revenue and everything. We were talking about people who made success and everything. It actually is probably more successful to actually just go and just try your hand at streaming. But again, don't expect it to go off right off the bat. Most YouTubers actually have to like put like 500 videos out before they actually even get noticed on the algorithm. In general, on top of that, that could take up to like 5 to 7 years to actually make. Because you can't just like make 500 videos and go upload them all and expect it to happen as well.
Yeah, YouTube and streaming in general, they're a long game. There are breakout successes, but they are very few and far between. And they're usually doing something very unique. They're not copying what other people do. They found their own niche, their own thing to do, and they are the only one out there doing it. And if you can find something like that and it hits off, great. More power to you. But don't expect to be PewDiePie in 6 months. Don't expect to be Linus Tech Tips next year. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to move on here back to the list thing.
Yeah.
And again, I picked up this list. Let me actually hop on this Griffin ride back to Keranos, but yeah, again, this list was picked up from like other YouTubers and stuff like that I saw people ask them, and I was like, I always thought while I'm watching this, I'm always thinking like, how would I answer this question? So I actually wrote a bunch of them down, and I figured we'd go through it. So, question one: best food experience.
Well, how about you start that one off because I'm sure yours are a lot more interesting than mine.
All right, the best food experience. Let me think. I would actually have to say, because this is a memory that I had way far back, and I have never had something that just tasted this good to me ever since. In that way, and it's gonna be funny, but it's a goat cheese pizza.
Ooh, you have my attention.
And I remember there's a place around, when I was a kid around in the San Diego area, and I don't think it's around anymore. It was known as That Pizza Place. They had like a penny arcade where they had just literally had arcade games that required only a penny to play.
That's rare.
And this
You
was
don't even see nickel arcades anymore.
yeah, but this was like when I was like 3 to 5 or some like small child age. So
Gotcha.
it's quite a while ago. But even so, that was rare for even that time. But yeah, so it had like its own little mini penny arcade and everything. But I remember the first time biting into this pizza, it was I like no, I went wide-eyed because I bit into it. I didn't even finish like chewing, biting off the pizza. I just tasted it in my mouth, and then I just like opened my mouth, and I only can imagine it being like a cartoon, like jaw drop, like coyote, whatever that coyote's name again, and then dropping
Wiley.
it. Like I've seen jaw drops. Everybody knows the cartoon Looney Tune jaw drops. So it was like I can only imagine it was like that, wide eyes, and I know I teared up, and I'm like, this is so freaking good, and
Off and away.
I've not been ever. I don't think I've ever had a pizza that tasted that good. And I was little and I didn't like the toppings, so it was just a pure cheese pizza, an extra cheese. If I recall them, when we were kids, at least I was a kid, I remember just saying extra cheese, where they just throw a fat layer of cheese on it, and it was just. And then I remember my aunt was actually saying that, oh, it's a goat cheese pizza. I'm like, goat cheese. I couldn't comprehend, goats make milk. I always thought cows make milk. That's the only way we even get milk. Period. So
Well, like they say on Meet the Parents. Oh, what is his name? Ben Stiller. I don't remember the actor's name, but anything with a nipple can be milked.
yeah, but when I was a kid, this thought didn't even fathom to me. It was like, no, milk comes from cows. Everybody's stupid. Because it's something I know. Goat milk came from cow.
Yep.
But yeah, it just didn't occur to me, and Lord and behold, it's still one of my fondest memories of food to date, and it was just like amazing to me.
All right. Well, probably my best food experience actually starts with one of my worst, and it's how I acquired my love of sushi. Very first time I ever had a California roll was at a Chinese buffet, and it was right next to things like eclairs and cakes, and it's in that dessert area because it was a low end thing, so that was literally the only refrigerated section they had. I didn't understand that at the time, but of course you're going to put that kind of stuff where it's refrigerated, so it was right next to all this jello and pudding, so I assume dessert. So I have it as the last thing of the meal, and I'm just take a bite and I almost immediately vomit. I didn't, because I actually have a stronger constitution than that, but it is the closest I have come to vomiting at first taste. And my dad and mom were just doubled over laughing. Erin didn't understand what was going on either, because she never wanted to touch the stuff. She didn't even become interested in it at all. But yeah, that was the very first time I ever tried sushi. And then probably about a year later, it's a place we frequent, and so every time my dad would actually try and get me to try it again. He's like, "You did it the wrong way. You should do it this way." It's like, no, I'm not touching that stuff again. That stuff is nasty, gross. I'm never going to touch it. Get it away from me. But again, we'd visit it every once in a while. He'd say, "You got to try it again. You're going to like it if you do it this way." He's like, "Nope, not touching it." And then eventually, I gave in because there were a lot of other things that my dad has introduced me to as food that I came to love. In that time, I'm like, you know what? You were right about this. Let me try it again. And tried it as a dinner, expecting it to be dinner food with ginger and wasabi like you're supposed to with a lot of them, because it was a basic California roll. It wasn't anything special. But he had me put a little bit of ginger, a little bit of wasabi, and I was like, wow, this is a very different experience than what I remember. I liked it. And it's become one of my favorite foods. It's actually become a pretty interesting tradition between me and my siblings is, whenever we're about to not see each other for a while, like we actually just went out for sushi last week before we sent Troy to school. So, we go out for sushi every once in a while. It's just the four of us, and we each get a couple rolls and share them between us, and it's just a great time.
I'm going to actually add to this because I will go through my first experience with sushi. And this was actually right after a time where, let's just say I came to California back when I started freshman year, basically. And literally I met my new group of friends, and this is actually probably, I've got to say, my first group of friends, which is sad enough as it is. I didn't get friends until I basically came to California and went into high school. But that's for various reasons, which will probably get answered later on in the future, if at all. But, okay, so I'm with everybody and everything. They wanted to go out and watch a movie. If I recall, what movie? Oh, yeah, I think it was Madagascar randomly. We just wanted to go watch a movie and just hang out together. It was actually kind of more like a giant group. It's like everybody pair up with the opposite gender, and we just kind of went as a giant date almost.
Gotcha.
And so well, the movie did. We get there, I think, around 6, and then the movie wanted to go see didn't start till 7 and everything. But there's this sushi restaurant right out front of the Regal, is the name of the cinema theater. So we go and this is also I gotta add, this is also, I have a fish allergy, and this is way before we even figured this out.
Oh.
But this is also before my body developed this kind of allergy to begin with, and it wasn't a California. It was a yellowtail.
Nice piece of fish.
And it's like, okay, what is this? I'm always, it looks like raw. Is it safe to eat? Went through my mind, and I didn't know anything about sushi at this time. I barely even knew much of anything Japanese other than some tsunami stuff and whatnot. I didn't even really connect that with Japanese and anime. The word anime in my head just didn't click as what it is now. It was just it was pretty much a pretty interesting cartoon in a way. And it sounds like my mouse just got disconnected. Well, anyway. So I remember because I was with my quote-unquote date at this time, because honestly I didn't even think of it as a date until I found out later on, was oh, that's what we were doing. Anyway, so I take it in my mouth, and honestly I was thinking, I was okay, what's this yellowtail tuna? I honestly didn't like tuna in general and everything, but when I got a taste of this thing, it literally tasted... It was so fatty that it had oils on it. It didn't even taste like fish. It didn't taste like fish at all, like what I was expecting fish to taste like. It almost tasted like a cold cut of pork or ham or something, but it was really juicy and actually tasty. And I'm like, oh my god, this is good. I never actually expected this and everything, and so I got 3 or 4 down, and this was actually, I'll also have to add that knowing now, it was a pretty cheap sushi restaurant, because everything came in groups of 4, and everything was under pretty much $2 to $3. And so I tried the California roll, and I think it was a crab. What's in a California roll? I really don't know much about
Imitation crab, yeah.
and everything, and I was expecting the same as what was before, and it wasn't what it was before in my mouth, and I'm like, oh my god. I slightly it slightly like started to regurgitate a bit in my mouth before I even got to swallow it, but I just kind of manned it up and just gulped everything down, and and I turned to what had been my date at the time and was like, "You want this? I think I'm just too full."
Pawn it off on someone else.
And then we went from that because we didn't want to blow all our money on this stuff, and especially after I'm like, okay, there's only one that I know I like, and it was the first one that I tasted. And so
Yeah.
we went down to a Mexican restaurant and actually had some burritos, I believe. Actually, I think it was mine. I just had a giant quesadilla. But we had just had Mexican food, then we went to go see the movie. But yeah, I just remember that foul taste in my mouth. It was. I'm not even sure if it was. It might have also been a rotten piece. I don't know.
It is possible because with California rolls, with it being an imitation crab salad, it's got, like mayonnaise and all that kind of stuff that can go bad pretty easily. So it is always possible, especially if it's a cheap place and they use cheap stuff.
Yeah, this was a pretty cheap place, and I haven't had it before. At the time, I didn't have it before because I chased a California roll like before, and this is actually like later on in life, like before I found out, right before we found out that I have a fish allergy, and it
Right.
tasted better because I've actually had crab and stuff before and shrimp and everything. It just tasted almost like a piece of shrimp to me, with a slight fishy aftertaste.
They are fairly similar, actually. Crab and shrimp. They're pretty similar in taste overall.
Yeah,
Especially imitation crab. Imitation crab it's not real crab. It's just not.
it's not the real stuff. So that was just my first experience. And I just remember it just that one California roll tasting literally like rotting meat because I've actually experienced when a neighbor decided to go accident. Well, no, he killed a deer because he had a ticket and everything, but he just left it hanging and rot in his garage right next door, and we could smell it.
Oh, why would you do that? Oh,
Yeah, well, he moved. He was just completely gone. But he left the deer, and it was horrible.
oh, all the
But
things to
it,
leave behind the
but
rotting.
it,
Ugh.
but it literally, that's what it tasted like. It tasted like that smell,
Ugh.
to me.
Bad. That's bad. And that was bad too. That was a freaking creeper. Awesome. I hate creepers.
Creeper, what the hell am I supposed to do here? I should probably read this. But yeah. So since you gave your somewhat bad food experience, I figured I'd throw mine in there too, because that's probably the worst food experience I had. And only later on, after I developed like a full-blown allergy to pretty much seafood in general, it's not really like what people would think would be an allergy to. It's not the oh look, I'm covered in hives and it's more like if I eat it, my body rejects it so much it basically treats it as if it was. I basically get food poisoning if I eat fish.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Oh, I'm supposed to use some disguise. Do, obviously. Haha. Disguise myself as a plant. What a task.
Pay no attention to this cardboard tree. I'm actually a real tree. See, I'm made of cardboard.
As opposed to most of the other frickin' disguises in WoW, this one actually looks like one of their shrubbery.
Okay, because there's some disguises that I've seen and used. It's like I'm an orc because I'm wearing these glasses.
Ah, yes.
What? And it doesn't even change the character model. They actually got better with that later, where they actually changed the character model. But initially, it's like you wear these glasses and you're an orc, even though you're a worgen, you're an orc.
I thought the one that was funny after a cataclysm where I was in Burning Steps or something like that, where not Burning, it's the one after Burning Steps, but I thought it was funny that originally when you throw on a mask to pretend to pretend like you're an orc or a troll or something, for some reason it would just completely remove your shirt. And I mostly play female tunes, so it just like go down to the basic bra, and I'm just like, what the hell just happened? What's this quest want me to do?
Meow, chicka, meow, meow.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, there is, the ever important poop collection quest in just about every expansion. Although I don't remember seeing one in Legion. Now that I think about it, I don't remember any poop collecting.
It's probably some kind of profession.
I'd believe that.
They usually have it somewhere. I actually went
It's
out,
somewhere. There, it's always somewhere.
and you wouldn't think it until you like got on this tune and everything. But because there's so many classes and so many specs and so many different like lines and everything, it's probably there somewhere. You just haven't found the exact one where it ran across.
Yep.
Actually, now that I think about it, don't rogues have to go through like the literal sewage of Dalaran?
Well, they do. Their thing is down in the sewer area, but they don't go through the actual sewer. It's just down in the sewers. That's where the portal um, to the warlock's place is too.
Yeah, I know, and kept on getting annoyed because I was trying to be killed just walking into my order hall.
You didn't get a guard.
No, I don't always get a guard. I walk out of that thing, and sometimes in the middle of the freaking thing, the place that's brawling. Well, it's not in the middle, but just
Oh,
as you walk it, it's like kind of just as you start going down that ramp to go down, but you're still flagged, and people can still hit you. I
right.
mean, you have like 3 seconds to move, but if you're in a loading screen as your thing, your character makes it there way before you, so they can actually hit you while you're AFK. So a lot of people just sat there and just like, yeah, let's just kill all the warlocks as they come out to get our
I
eyeballs.
I think they fixed that. I think they make you an honorless target or unkillable. I don't remember which one it is, but it's either honorless target or unkillable for like 30 seconds after you port in.
I know they needed to do something because that was. And my warlock was one of the tunes I was happy to go in this expansion, but just not being able to go to the order hall kind of ruined a lot of things for me.
Well, my warlock last expansion got played quite a bit. This expansion, I pretty much just focused on my hunter. I didn't really touch anything else until recently when I started picking on my DK again, but I really don't intend to play like my druid, which is kind of sad because she's my first tune that I ever got up, but I really don't intend to play her anymore.
Sadness, but understandable, honestly, because I first played my paladin, and the first tune I love, well, no, technically the first tune I ever made it to a max level in legitimate WoW was
I
on
find it
the.
interesting you have to qualify that with legitimate WoW.
Yeah, I will admit, because I have a bunch of friends that they just wanted to play the game, and so we played on a private server. And the private, I think it was called Burning WoW. But yeah, I got my first thing I ever truly got up was a mage, and then I got a paladin up. But in the actual World of Warcraft game, the first thing I actually got up was because I juggled around so many tunes between at that time. I actually got my Death Knight was like my first max level thing at level 80 in Lich King. Even
Oh,
though
okay.
technically I did play the Burning Crusade expansion, just I didn't get to raid or do dungeons or anything because the instances were not a thing. But I got the questing and the ideal quest line stuff.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, so in Legitimate WoW it was a Death Knight, but then my Paladin was shortly behind, and I played more of that Paladin than anything else, and it was mostly a tank. It was like, and then the next thing was like a Hunter, Druid, and when I got Druid up, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome because I could heal. I was like the first full-blown healer, even though I leveled my Paladin as a Holy Paladin.
Right.
So, yeah, that was back in the day stuff. Honestly, I had my Hunter. Actually, I still have my Hunter. It's the only tune that survived all this apocalypse things is my Hunter. And that's because I realized Hunters were so powerful. They could do all this crazy things, but you had to have so much. They always have had been placed on this high pedestal since I started playing. Apparently, they weren't so good back in for raiding and stuff back in BC. I never
Oh,
played one back
I didn't
then,
play a
but
hunter till Kata. I didn't pick up. Funny. I didn't pick up my main tune until 2 expansions into my career. Go figure.
yeah, I really have liked Mage and everything. I just liked casters and the power that they had, especially when I always leveled Mage Fire, and I just saw the power of that. I'm like, oh my god. I didn't even think about ice or anything else. I just remember leveling that first mage ever as a fire mage, and it was like, well, Pyroblast pretty much kills everything. Granted, it does have a long startup time, but who the hell cares when I one-shot the target?
Yeah.
And if I didn't one-shot it, the at the time, if I recall, the damage over time back then was just so powerful. It was a lot more damage than the one shot. So before they die, before they even reached me.
Yeah, that's been the other thing that was been honestly it's been very interesting to me to see the way they let characters and classes grow. Like when I started playing Hunter, the first major thing that everyone freaked out about was no more ammo. And you had people on one side of the fence that were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to do so much less damage," even though they came out and said, "No, you're not. We're not decreasing your damage. We're just making it so you don't have to carry 9 billion of these things around all the time."
Yeah, you didn't have to have a quiver or an ammo pouch because that was a big thing as well. And I played Hunter and Lich King. I actually had to go engineer and craft myself those freaking arrows because those arrows were, oh, well, arrows, bullets. They were everything, but they also allowed you to change whatever your weapon type damage was. Like
And they
between
kind of
elemental.
started doing that. They bring that. I think survival has that elemental shot.
I don't even know because I haven't actually gotten to play
Maybe it's
survival.
marks. I know some of them. Someone has some kind of elemental shot that they can use.
I know there's a fire shot. I can't remember who has it, but I know it's there.
Yeah, I haven't messed around with anything besides Beast Mastery since Pandaria. I haven't even switched my spec since Pandaria, so
Yeah, that's one because Cataclysm. If you're running Beast Mastery, it was completely stupid. I mean, it was only there for leveling, and a lot of people got mad at that. Like the spec that you leveled in usually ended up being the worst spec period, but it had the most survivability.
yeah.
But anyway, we're running off on another topic, and I say let's go
Which we always
ahead.
do.
Why don't we go ahead and fill out another question, one of these questions here.
Alrighty.
All right, now this question's a kind of an interesting one, and that is if you can change one aspect of this world without causing it to go into other chaos and just fail, what would it be? Examples would be like a moon not affecting the tides or snow not being cold. And do you want to
You
go
know,
first, or?
honestly, I would say make everyone have beach weather always. I don't know how you would go about doing that. I don't know how to really like describe that as being an effect, but turning down the sun is a bad idea. Um, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to put it, but I just living in Southern California, sucks for one main reason, and that is the fact that during the summer it is regularly 100 plus degrees. Now I know it's not the only place that is 100 plus degrees, and I get that. People are going to say, "Oh, well, it's 120 in Arizona and all this stuff." It's like, yeah, well, they live in a desert too, so it's going to get hot. But to make it so I wouldn't have to deal with that anymore and just enjoy my time outside in the summer would be fantastic.
How are you? Be good.
It's a me personally, it almost sounds like hell because I actually like snowy, cold weather. And I have only actually realized this recently, like mainly because I took a trip to other countries and everything, and I lived in that weather and everything, and I was perfectly fit for that weather. I mean, the cold never, I never got freezing to the point because I've lived in when I grew up, I lived in pretty much an Arctic environment anyway.
Down a pint. Watch your back.
Right.
So, and I never realized how much I missed it till I actually went over there, and I'm all like, oh my god, this. Here, it could also be that California in general just has a bad air quality, but there's actually some places where the air quality, like, it feels refreshing and everything. But I've also realized it was more along the lines of the cold air. Just I just felt like I could finally breathe.
Oh, I can definitely agree with you there. I have always enjoyed the cold more than the hot, and not just because it's cold and it's not hot, but it's more fun in the cold. You can just kind of relax a little bit easier. I have found, at least.
I found that it's easier to warm up than it is to cool down.
Oh, absolutely. The this is something I always say is it's in public you can only take off so much clothing. But during the wintertime, you can add on any layer you want. Just keep piling it on.
Yep, or just move around or something.
Yep.
But I see what you want, just like have perfect weather and have all kinds of, but just so you could do stuff.
Yeah, because, and again, in Southern California, the winters are very mild, and I get out and I do a lot of things. I bike more during the winter. I, used to play golf all the time with my dad during the winter because it's just, it's like you said, it's easier to warm up and stay warm than it is to cool down. So we just do more. And cleaning the garage is so much easier in the winter. I hate cleaning the garage in the summer. I think that is my least favorite activity of all time.
I think I
Cleaning the
gotta
garage
say
in the
about
summer.
summer that I really don't like, as well as how active the bugs get.
Well, see, that's not something that my thing would get rid of, though, because
Yeah, the bugs
unless it's
just
like 40 degrees outside, they're going to be active.
yeah. I realize I'm just pointing out that in hot weather, bugs are like really active.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially mosquitoes. And again, Southern California, yay, West Nile, yay, Valley Fever.
It's also interesting that California could actually be stated that it's like looks like it's a bent coffin.
I hate hearing that.
Bread to me.
It's so strikingly true and real on so many different levels. It's every time I hear that, I'm like, no, shut up. I
They're
can't see
all
that
gonna
map. Shut up.
die.
Leave me alone. I deny you. You're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's my turn now, though. And the one thing I would want to change about reality, physics, and everything is basically want to remove humans' the necessity of sleep. Like
Oh my
me,
gosh, yes.
I mean, I pretty much stay up constantly all the time, but I feel like miserable for it. I want that like misery to like if we'd only sleep for like the pleasure of sleeping, but it not actually being a necessary part of our biological function. And
That would be so awesome.
if you think about it, we spend so many years of our lives just asleep and everything. I just love everything more because then I've seen like this in like American Dad and stuff. Like suddenly they find they have so much more time on their hands because they magically find a pill that removes the necessity of for them to sleep, and they're like, oh my god.
Yeah, yeah,
They learn so
that's
much
funny.
more. They become actually more culturally accepted until like I think something happens about the medicine, and they all freak out. But it's just like wow. If society, I wouldn't actually doubt the society. I mean, you'd have a lot more time in the day, a lot of fairly more stress. Although it's supposed to be like a stress relief on our bodies and whatnot. But that's one of the things I just want it to be removed, like so that we could just function without sleep.
My stress relief is video games. I don't need sleep.
Yeah, and
Except I do, so it sucks.
yeah, I know. Like I said, I have problems sleeping to begin with, and I actually get stressed out just trying to sleep.
Yep.
So would actually remove so much stress in my life, just the fact, and it's also had negative effects and all kinds of things. So, I mean, it affects our
Oh yeah.
digestive system, all that. I just don't want to sleep. Why did they do this to us? Oh God, why do you hate us so?
You got my attention.
I guess.
Yeah, creeper.
See you soon.
Speaking of God,
I hate creepers. They come out of nowhere.
Minecrafts. Might actually be
How are
able
ya?
to play that game here soon, but I gotta figure things out.
Yep.
Really, I hit gold cap already? Jeez. Got a transmog again.
I didn't realize you were level 20 on that character already.
Yeah, I just hit it like earlier on. And this is actually one of the characters I've been playing like a few times now. I just blew like my first amount of gold on something, a transmog that just looked like another, literally another gear set, like the heirloom sets.
Oh, right.
I just made my male agility heirloom set look like the spellcaster agility set.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
I can make myself look like the whole fell, the invasion gear. It goes through all levels, but it looks like Legion gear. So I can make myself look like I'm a lot more decked out than I really am.
Nice.
Let's see, but what weapon looks like it goes with this? Because all the weapons I have are still pretty low resolution crap. I guess this is the best looking weapon I have. That would go with it. Literally, like every like so many quests, and I get so much money, I have to like ditch all the money somehow, and this is the best way to ditch that money.
Right.
Anyway, how about we move on to another question?
Sure.
Alright, let's go with the third question we have here, and it would be, what would be a video game series that we would like wiped from history? It never existed.
See, this is a tough one for me because there aren't any series that I haven't enjoyed. So I'm not sure.
The first things that came to mind.
That's not true. I know exactly what series
Oh,
I
okay.
want wiped from the face of the earth.
Go ahead.
I don't want to hear the name Madden ever again.
I was actually gonna say pretty much similar things because I was gonna actually say those either the sports games is what I was gonna say. That's kind of like an entire genre. But you know how we have football and everything and all that. But if it wasn't gonna be like that, then I was actually probably gonna say like maybe the Call of Duty series, or Halo or something. Just a lot of those because there's so many freaking first person shooters. If we got rid of just one of their series and everything, I don't think we'd be missing out. And if anything, it probably would make the other ones better so that we'd actually have one good series rather than 30, 40, 90 clones of the same goddamn thing.
Well, see, I don't really have anything against the Call of Duties and Halos and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, first person shooters in general, I really don't have anything in particular against it, other than the people who think they're all that in a bag of chips because they reach prestige, this, that, and they brag about it, and that kind of stuff bothers me. Honestly, the reason I want Madden to go away is I mean, it's not even just sports games in general. I think there's some sports games that have a place, to be honest. But I can go out and throw a football with my siblings any day of the week and get the same or more enjoyment out of that experience than playing Madden. There's some sports games out there that I can't do, like NHL. I can't do that any day of the week that I want to. So, that's one of those things that, if that's what you enjoy doing and that's, your thing, then go for it. But football and even baseball for that matter, I can literally go outside and do that on my own and get the same amount or more enjoyment out of it than playing a video game based around it. So, yeah.
That's why I was saying sports because they're better to be played in person rather than like a simulation. But I actually think I feel more towards like a first-person shooter, like either the Call of Duty or Halo, because this is my reasoning behind it. I felt that those games on their online connectivity started the whole toxicity of, like you said, those egomaniacs just becoming a real problem in society as a whole now, at least online society. We started getting trolls because they realized, hey, this is anonymous. I can get away with all this stuff. Nothing will ever fall back on me. And I feel because I also know it's just it goes along with some other things that we've gone like spoiled kids here in America and whatnot, but. How are they ever going to know what I'm saying online and everything? They really want a quick match on something,
Good day to you. Have a good
It just introduced kids to the idea of just being completely anonymous at a young age, and they just unleashed their toxicity on the world.
What can I do for you?
And that's my reasoning behind particularly the shooter genre. And I'm not saying eliminate all shooters, because I'm just saying the one that whatever the one was that actually started the whole online play and allowing basically kids to join. They should have had like a harder system backed up to actually filter out from kids playing these games on. And it's funny to say because most people think of kids playing video games, but I've always been a strong supporter of certain age groups getting their video game, and the video games being for everybody to a degree. Like they can have a video game. I'm talking like video games as a whole being for everybody, but not individual games.
Yeah. Well, and it's honestly one of the really interesting reasons. There are a lot of people that call me on the carpet, oh, so you want to get rid of all sports games. Like, well, yes and no. There are some sports games out there that you literally cannot do in real life, and it's the Mario sports. Mario Tennis, Mario Baseball, Mario Strikers, all those things. Those things they do in that game are literally physically impossible. Is it still the same basic game? Yes, but I can't kick a ball, make it go on fire, and kill a Koopa Troopa with it in real life.
Not to mention,
I can't do that.
Not to mention the Mario games add some kind of crazy twist to the entire thing.
Always.
So
those kinds of sports games, those ones I've always been okay with because they're not really sports games.
I know what you mean. I was talking also myself about like the ones that are literally like exact clones of like major leagues and everything, pretending to be this sports hero from this game and put it in this basically simulator that it's kind of weird because you're trying to play a one-man simulation against a AI simulation or player versus player. You're a one-man team regardless. I mean, unless you're sitting there playing with like I don't even know how many things we need for each sport, but each individual player played a completely different thing. You all came together almost like a WoW raid to actually play like two teams versus this guy each other. I don't see the point in it, but yeah, that was something like I was saying I was originally gonna say, but I moved completely over to that toxicity, a first-person shooter thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, take that, Bobcat. Dig, 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 dig. I'm mining. I just don't mine for fish. Although I will say that was pretty interesting. What was it, Cataclysm, where we started getting boxes or something in mining nodes, and you could have fish in those boxes.
Oh yeah.
And I basically got a lot of fish that for raids and stuff. Like, hey guys, do you need these fish? I keep getting them as I mine. And it wasn't just that. I mean, pretty much every collection thing had its own, like box or bag or something that gave random, like secondary stuff. Like you can
Yep.
get cloth or
With
something.
skinning, it was gut sacks.
Yeah. Herbs, I believe we found seeds or something. Some kind of bag of seeds or so. But it wasn't just seeds, it's like bags of left behind goods or something. I just remember getting a bunch of stuff like that and just like, oh boy, now any profession could actually pull off fishing. And that was when Blizzard, I guess, just finally discovered, how much a pain in the butt fishing was and how much essential they actually made it for raiding.
Many deals for a friend.
Well, that's why you saw the over. See, and that's where they get into trouble. Is then they overcompensate and they give you the garrison, and now you don't ever have to do any gathering profession ever, 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 ever.
Farewell.
Yeah, Garrison did pretty much kill a lot of the game. I mean, that yeah,
Killed that aspect of it, and it killed auction houses for sure.
economy just plummeted. I mean, the transmog alone started turning the comedy into something else because all that green crap is no longer, discarded trash. I mean, you could actually sell that stuff for whatever the current scaling of gold, low tier gold is now. What we'd see on the auction house way back in the day for maybe 1 to 2 gold is now like 200 to 300 gold.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, because you can transmog it now, it actually has value. But I like the transmogging system, so my only problem is getting those actual really rare sets. Oh, so I'm actually still kind of, my problem is getting the rare sets, but I like the fact that they're so rare.
Yeah, most people still like the fact that those things are rare. And I'm pretty much okay with it too.
I just wish that they'd actually allow us to wear any type of gear, not just the greens, because there's a lot of sets that are limited only to the grays and white stuff.
Yep.
And I thought they were going to do something about it by the time I came back, because I heard about the fashion contests for transmog, but it's transmog, and it's kind of stupid. I don't know. There's also some things between like mail and plate that they decided to switch to be like full-on plate things from the very beginning of the game, which before you didn't get plate gear until like level 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they made a lot of those kinds of changes.
Yeah, I feel like maybe get rid of one or the other and just convert like just the gear. So I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the gear you should be able to make if you want to be like a tank, but you look like you're like say a paladin. If if you want to look like you're a paladin running around in a robe with with a buster sword, I feel like you should be able to. I mean, it adds more to the RP value of your tune.
Yeah, there's definitely that much to be said for it too.
I know there's people that you always make fun of the tank wearing cloth armor and stuff like that, but I know there's also an RP idea behind some things like that as well, and not just someone being stupid.
Right.
Anyway, again, we're getting off on another subject, so...
Pretty much our modus operandi.
Yep, we're at the 1 hour mark now, so... Why don't we go ahead and hit up another question while we continue this on. Let me grab my sheet here, and, okay, the next question, and this one's an interesting one as well. What is the dumbest job you've ever had to do? And this isn't just limited to actual working jobs or paid jobs. It's paid, or it's more along the lines of a job you had to do regardless of how the reward or anything was. It could just be like a chore or something your parents told you to do like constantly as you were a kid.
I'm gonna have to think about that one. So if you've got something, go for it.
I would have to say pretty much raising a newborn girl that just went through heart surgery after she was like literally like 2 months old. It was a hard time in our lives. My little sister was born, and pretty much my mom didn't have time, and was kind of losing her at her wits' end at this point in her life as well. That I suddenly had to take over literally raising her from the first like 3 years of her life. Between the diapers and feeding and all kinds of things, burpings.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, so I would have to say that was probably like the worst thing. Yeah. That job that shouldn't be a job that a 13-year-old should have to face. Actually, I was even younger. How old was I? Let's see, she was born like 7th grade, so I was like 13.
Wow.
And I do feel like, that was pretty stupid for a kid to be forced into that at that age.
Interesting. That's yeah, probably not something that age should be doing.
Yeah, and for anybody who's worried and just confused about all this and how everything, that's how I ended up having to move to California and all kinds of things. So everything's been taken care of since. I mean, in fact, my little sister, just last month and everything, I think she's like 16, so she's a sophomore in high school now.
Okay.
Although that probably just threw my age into the window, but whatever. If someone actually wants to calculate that out, you'll never find out my real birthday. Oh wait, no, I have a stream about that. Crap, everybody knows everything. They all know. Crazy people. So you're gonna take a pass on this one, or come back to, or?
Honestly, I have a hard time thinking of really ridiculous things or stupid things I've had to do. I mean, I worked as a janitor in a vet's office for a little bit during high school, but I don't really think of that as stupid as much as it was just kind of weird at times.
I'm think it's more along the lines of like the little things also could be involved here, because I remember this question coming up, and the streamer was like what the hell is this supposed to mean? And his group of people came up with like the one person actually had to like fold. They had like they were working at a restaurant, and everything. But one of the things that they had to do at the restaurant was fold like silverware into napkins and everything, and that's pretty much the only thing they did. Period. And they thought that was actually pretty dumb because
I think I'd qualify that as a dumb job. Yeah.
because it wasn't actually like a pristine restaurant. I think it was like they didn't say the exact fast food because I think they were trying to avoid getting hit with anything. But from my impressions, it was something like maybe an Arby's or a McDonald's or something that they actually had cloth napkins for that were like. That's like, but if we're gonna be like this fast food and cheap and everything, why the hell didn't we just get like the buy? Why the hell the store didn't just buy the cheap napkin with utensils, plastic utensils within them already? From what they were saying, but yeah, it could be something like that. Is what I'm going on.
Well, and see that's one of those things that I really haven't had the pleasure display. Well, I'm not sure how you put that, but yeah, that hasn't really been one of the kinds of things I've done. I mean, I worked as a in-home maid for that guy for a while. You remember that, but that was pretty basic stuff. It wasn't really anything outlandishly ridiculous like that. So I don't know. I'd have to say either pass or.
If you're gonna pass, I think I'll move on to the second dumbest thing I've ever had to do.
Sure.
Okay, number 2. And this would have to be looking up videos for selling in a adult hobby shop while working, while at the cash register. They wanted me to know wanted me to find good videos that they'd actually want to go like productions and whatnot to get videos for it to actually sell in the store. So when I wasn't like stalking or checking stocks and looking around, making sure nobody's stealing anything, I literally had to be on certain adult sites looking up videos to sell in the store.
Okay, but how old were you?
At the time I was 20.
Okay, so still definitely in the age range of legal, so that's good at least.
Yeah. I just thought it was a totally dumb thing, because you would think that the owner of the shop owning a shop like this would actually, know what he'd want to sell, but apparently he didn't have time to just, sit back on his own to actually I couldn't actually fully tell which person fully was my boss, because there was 2 of them there. I know they weren't married, but I couldn't tell which one was actually the owner at certain times. So it could have just been a joint effort between these 2. I actually don't even know their full relations, but I just know they weren't a couple.
Right. That's very interesting.
But again, it was dumb jobs. So, before this gets even crazy and more awkward and probably even age restricted on YouTube,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next question. And this one, I have a story for this one, but it's the dumbest things we ever believed as kids.
I'll let you go first, mostly because I'm probably going to be outshone, so I'd rather that be at the beginning than the end.
Okay, well, I believe this up till quite a while. I think we had our first It's like almost biology, zoology, and everything. And then I started realizing, because I already went through the story, as I didn't realize milk came from other animals till like later on in life. But one of the things that came through my mind also with that belief is the color of the cow also determined if it made chocolate or white milk. So I always thought for like the longest time until I discovered, I don't even remember what grade it was. It had to be like somewhere around 5th or 6th grade that I realized, chocolate milk does not, brown milk does not, chocolate milk does not come from brown cows. And all kinds of animals actually produce milk. Coincidentally, I also know about strawberry milk and everything, and I always was wondering where the pink cows. They must be over there in like Washington or some other state over on the other side of the world of the United States to actually get pink milk because I had to get strawberry milk that was like so I could in the pink cow. So I literally thought the pink cows existed somewhere. So that's like a 2-for-1 there. Actually, 3-for-1, including the earlier story of the goat milk.
Weirdest thing I believed as a kid. Yeah, honestly, I don't remember too much about my childhood. Especially things that I didn't that I believed. I think my dad is a very pragmatic and practical person, so there were certain things that when we mentioned, he made sure to correct us pretty much all the time. So it was kind of an interesting thing there with childhood imagination and the lack thereof. But huh.
I can probably think of something about you. Like, did you ever think the Ninja Turtles were real?
No, I really didn't have any kind of stuff like that. I was able to separate reality from fantasy fairly easily.
Yeah, because I will admit that was something for me as well, and the streamer that actually got asked this question brought that up too. It's because when they would actually take those cartoon movies and make live actions of them, and I realized there were actors and everything, but the fact that I didn't actually get the idea of costumes in my head, and it was like, oh my god, no, the Ninja Turtles are real. Man, I just keep digging myself deeper and deeper.
Well, yeah. See, I never really had anything like that.
Salutations.
I'm honestly trying to think of any misconceptions I may have had at all throughout my life, because I'm sure there have to have been at least some. I don't know why I can't think of them though.
Probably because of the whole kid thing. Because if it's anything like my brother, he can't remember 3 years past, or no, he can actually remember more of his teenage, later teen years, but he can't remember things past a certain age.
Hello.
And it's not just him. I actually realized that several of my other friends came across this, and for some reason I can remember quite a bit back, which has baffled of me constantly. It's like, why do I remember all these things, but my friends can't even, their earliest memory? I mean, the first time I ever met several of my friends after coming down here to California and everything, they don't even remember how we met. And it's like, really? Like, I have this one friend, not gonna actually fully name drop him. Let's just, for the sake of this thing, we'll just call him, my family's nickname for him is Al Gore. Don't ask.
I want to, though. I want to so bad.
There's a story behind this as well, and maybe it'll come up eventually, but his nickname was Al Gore. And let's just call him Al for short. So, how I met Al was, this is fresh from Montana, I came down. Yu-Gi-Oh had pretty much just hit the area and everything, and I played Pokemon for years when I like the card game and everything. So it was actually one of the first ones. I played it when it was still pretty much in this Japanese state at Comic Con because they had a demo. It's like, check out this new thing that's about to hit. It's like, oh snap, what is this? And I didn't see it for like almost another year, I believe. It's like, oh,
Okay.
this is the card game. But Yu-Gi-Oh had pretty much just come out, the very first set. And I was like, oh man, I wonder if they're gonna have tournaments like that old card game, basically, is what I thought at the time. And then I went to several card shops in the area, and they actually kind of sucked because they didn't actually have the tournaments. It was the next city over. So we had to go to the next city over, and it's like, oh boy, I don't know anybody here. I don't know if I can trade with anybody. I don't know what's going good and what's not. The only thing that actually I remember about my deck that was actually pretty cool is that I actually had a complete set of Exodia.
Nice.
And that's probably because I was the only one really going from shop to shop buying all the cards and uh, trying to be impressed and everything. My dad, who has had bad stories enough as it is, he was trying to he basically just kept on getting me cards after cards just for doing whatever around the house and stuff. So I ended up with quite the collection. And I think that was just because I was the only one in our city that was actually buying all the cards.
Gotcha.
So anyway, I get there and I'm in line to sign up and everything, and I realized that this kid has this backpack. It's basically I have an old deck box that almost looks exactly like this backpack, but only it was, it actually looked like a backpack. It was roundish shaped and everything, but there was a Blastoise on the back of it. And I recognized Blastoise. I'm like, because I played the trading card game Blastoise, and my very last deck that I played with that was really good was a Blastoise deck, and it had that same image on the back.
Okay.
And I saw this kid, and he looked rough. Actually, I thought he was older than what he was, because I thought he looked older than me. And so I started talking to him. I was like, yeah, Blastoise. He's like, yeah, Pokemon. And we started literally talking about Pokemon at a Yu-Gi-Oh event. And this was like one of the first tournaments they've ever had in the area for it. And our age division, because I think we were both like in the 13 and under kind of division.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay. So the 13 and under, and I didn't even realize. It's like, oh wow, you're actually closer to I still didn't know his age for like quite a while away and everything, and we get matched up against each other. And I'm going through everything, and I'm realizing my deck almost completely and utterly sucks because I mostly just filled it up with a bunch of monsters because I didn't even realize what the magic and trap cards do. And the one thing I did know, though, is that I actually managed to draw all of Exodia, and then that's when everybody flipped out, and they're like, wait, this kid actually has the full set of Exodia?
Dang, nice.
Greetings.
And that's how I won my first round, but then I lost like every other round.
Aww.
And I was like, damn it, so I'm not good at all in this game. I was actually pretty upset about myself too, because it's so stupid, and then I found out about the forbidden limits and everything, because I actually got called out because I'd had like 3 Monster Reborns in my deck. I didn't realize you could only have one.
Oh, gotcha.
So, average noob mistakes and all kinds of things there, but in the end, we were both pretty much out of the tournament, and we just like went right across the street to a Jack in the Box, and we just kind of hung out and talked ever since, basically. But he does not remember this at all. He doesn't remember going. He remembers playing card games, but he doesn't remember what card game we started and hung out with. But he doesn't remember the Jack in the Box. He doesn't remember who won that match. He doesn't remember the Exodia. He remember I had Exodia to like later on in like because I always kept that set of Exodia. And
Right.
and but event and but it was never anything that he never connected it right back to that. He just remembered we started playing games because that wasn't just like the first time and the only time we hung out. I mean, we kept running into each other like every week, and then when I started getting back into Magic the Gathering at another card shop, he was there and he's like, "Yeah, I just decided to try this because my dad had these cards." And he saw that I liked this other card game, and so it was basically his dad was trying to push him into playing Magic the Gathering. And then we started playing Magic the Gathering, and then Duel Masters came out, and then I'm like, what about Pokemon? I remember playing that a lot, and also I had a lot of, I actually started having friends in high school now, and I secretly kept Pokemon because every time everybody had made fun so bad that Pokemon was pretty much my guilty pleasure when it came to either the card game or the video games.
Right.
And that was the main reason I think I didn't have friends in Montana is because you like Pokemon. I mean, a lot of people liked it for a while, but then they really started hating it because I guess their parents got on them really hard on it about it, and like I guess kids were literally got beaten by their parents, as in they got their ass whooped, or even mentioning the word. Because the whole
Yeah.
Pokemon, it's the devil scare that I guess got.
Summoning demons.
Although Yu-Gi-Oh! Was technically worse off. It never got hit.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's literally telling you about ritual sacrifice here.
Pretty much.
Anyway, so yeah, it was kind of like a thing until the new games were coming out, Fire Red and Leaf Green, and everybody got a little bit more hyped, and that's another story enough on its own. But that's when I started going to Pokemon, and then he was there as well, and we were just always like, huh. Every time we try to expand our gaming scene, we ended up going to and meeting up, so we just ended up hanging out more and more.
Hello. See you around.
But moral of the thing is he doesn't remember these things, and I always thought it was weird. And bringing this up to your predicament here is not remembering your dumb things that you remember,
What brings you here?
that you believed as a kid.
Farewell.
Yeah, it's odd that there are some people that have really long memories and others that just don't.
Sharp,
We
proud.
blank at the slightest thing.
Dun 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 dun. So you want to take another pass then?
I'm honestly trying to think of something, but I can't think of any misconceptions or weird things that I believed as a kid. It's just not coming to me.
No childlike wonders.
Well, childlike wonder, I guess not really even that, because I mean, I played pretend as a kid, like a lot. I mean, what kid doesn't? But I knew it as that pretend. I didn't really try and you know get it to be real or anything. You know?
May your feet find good trail.
Actually, I never really got to play much pretend. I mean, I got to play with Legos and build stuff, but I didn't get. I was more creative because of my life situation. And I think you need more friends to actually be able to play pretend.
Yeah, well, I guess that kind of depends on the pretend you're playing. I didn't have a whole heck of a lot of friends either, but
Actually, I guess I could say I had some friends when I went to this certain school and everything, but I wasn't supposed to be going to this certain school, so I couldn't like hang out after schools or go to like birthday parties or anything. And then due to certain accidents and everything, things were revealed and I had to leave the school or
oh,
leave before
interesting.
things happened. So I'll tell you more about that later.
Yeah, no, if it's private, don't worry about going into it.
But long story short, with that is, I wasn't allowed to have friends
I got
because just to
many,
go to
many
just
wares.
being I had to if I wanted to go to school, period, I wasn't allowed to have friends.
Interesting.
So yeah, the only way I got creative, and actually I'm a
Failfurby
little sad
find
about
good
this because I've
treasure.
seen some of my old creations when I was a kid that were still around or pictures were taken of, and I won rewards to it. I'm like, how the hell did I do that? I'm still wondering because there's one that I got a lot of good. It is a pretty much a charcoal drawing of our log cabin, and it looks like almost what you would think of like a concept art for like a log cabin.
Interesting.
And I'm like, I remember drawing it. I remember doing it. I just thinking through my head, and it's like, how did I know how to do this when I was a kid? And had no previous like art thing because the project literally was like the school's trying to teach us arts and everything like that, and they just wanted the teacher was like wanted to know how well we draw, how well we like to draw.
Right.
And this was like pretty much me just going into this class, and then they just like looked at me, looked at the picture, looked at the. I actually remember this particularly because they thought my parents did it, and it's actually more funny because I actually brought in my regular because you know how you go through you have like one teacher and then you move around a bunch of other some semi classes like art, music, and everything.
Right.
And then because this is elementary school, and I think this was like second grade, the second or first grade, and they went. One of the teachers actually see me working on this, and they're like, "No, he did it." Because I was actually about to get in trouble because I would for lying. The art teacher just couldn't fathom that I was able to do it, and I hardly even can nowadays. When I look back on that one picture, I'm like, I know I remember this. I just why?
Yeah, that's one of those interesting things to look back on is see what you used to do and used to create.
I also drew dinosaurs and monsters and all kinds of things as well. So I'm just pointing out that my imagination came out more through creativity than it actually did with regular imaginary and play.
But at least you still had the opportunity. So that's good.
Ye-
Actually, that's something that we're talking about in school right now is the psychology of play and its importance to, well-being and all these some of the things that it's been discussed is, there are all these countries out there like Bulgaria and Russia where play and all this thing is thought of as completely and totally frivolous, and how dare you waste your time with these meaningless activities and all this kind of stuff. But as science progresses and we find out that no, this is the way we learn, when it's fun, we learn it. When it's not, we, you know, repeat actions over and over, and that's about it. We don't actually learn anything and grow as a species without play of some kind. And that's not necessarily, like video games are the way to go, or, you have to play outside, or, all this other things that you've heard. There are a lot of campaigns out there like the play 60 a day and these kinds of things, and you have to do this. And it's like, well, yeah, that's important for like physical activity and stuff like that, but for like actual mental stability and well-being, not so much. How you play isn't as nearly as important as doing it at all. So that's been kind of interesting to see and learn.
It also just reminds me, from not being able to play, I basically read a lot of books as well. Which I always thought, everybody probably thought I was just the odd kid because I never really played. I never did anything. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. They'd only see me like either reading or drawing.
Right.
Where the hell is this quest finder? Somehow it's underground. Maybe I was supposed to go in that cave over there. Anyway, you still can't think of anything though? Like,
No, I'm trying and nothing's coming to mind.
no like boogeyman or anything?
Yeah, see, that's one of the weird things about me growing up as a kid, is I really didn't have any of those kinds of stereotypical childhood fears either. I just kind of, I don't know.
There's a robot. Oh my god, wait. Can I tame that robot chicken? I am a gnome. Oh man, but I had to get rid of something. Well, Mountain Dew, you're pretty cool, but I'm gonna probably have to get rid of you in order, because this is a rare spawn. It looks like one of the gnome mount chickens.
Oh, nice.
And because of that, I'm gonna see if I can dismiss this and tame it. Yeah, this one dismiss, abandon the other.
Screw you!
Screw you, polar bear. Although, you're pretty cool too, even though you're like the last remaining model of the back in the day bear. Oh wait, there's a bunch. Okay, no, there's a bunch of other ones. I want to get the rare spawn one though. It's a rare spawn one running around and I want to tame it. Let me actually see and put beast lore on my thing. This could be interesting, just in general. Wait, can I tame that chicken? Hey, I can get a robot chicken right now, a legit robot chicken.
Nice.
I actually did. Nah, I gotta ditch the bunny. I'm gonna get this Optimo. Its name is Optimo.
Not familiar with the mob, but that's funny.
I have a gnome mount as a pet.
That's hilarious.
You know what's interesting too is that this warlock literally came walking up right after I tamed it. He could have tried to kill it for himself and get the nothing else, the EXP. But now
But he let you have it. How nice.
Well, no, I think he didn't even. I think he was just coming into the cave.
Oh.
I don't actually ever remember this cave. This might be just something new, just because they added these types of pets to the 100 pets to the game.
That's entirely probable.
But yeah, this cave's full of a bunch of, what literally looks like the first sets of gnome mounts.
Nice.
Should probably put the pet's growl on that's action bar so I can turn that off if I ever do anything that requires a group. Not that that really matters, because as long as it's like around my level, I can pretty much one-shot everything.
Yep.
Anyway, that was something that went on in the game. It was strange, but it'd be nice to actually go back and review this later. Oh my god, I guess the broken down rusty sky. Okay. The it looks like it's to be like their king chicken, because there's also like I said, battle chicken. There's like the robot chicken pet and everything. Like the companion pet is literally here as a tameable pet. But
Right.
there's those as well in here, and it just looks like they're all worshiping what would be the epic mount of the gnome mounts.
Nice.
I think I'm done in this cave, so I'm heading out. Anyway, we're coming up on an hour and a half, and I wanted to keep this thing within 2 hours, so let's take maybe 1 to 2 more questions and then wrap it up.
Alrighty.
Alright, let me grab my notebook here, and I'm actually going to skip ahead to this question here, because I think this one falls in line, because we pretty much answered a little bit of the opposite in a way, but what is your favorite video game franchise?
That definitely have to be World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I can see that, just because of how everything in our lives pretty much got tied together because of this game.
Well, it's where I met you and Spirit Walker. It's where I've spent admittedly unhealthy amount of time. But it's more than just that. It's the gameplay has, you know, RPGs in general for me have always been very enjoyable. The very first, actually, my very first computer game was a PC port of a Sega game, and it was Shining Force. Great RPG strategy game. Well, by those standards at least. but yeah, that's one of the very early video game memories I have is with an RPG. And World of Warcraft just takes it to another level entirely in so many different ways. It's the character progression that you have it takes so long. And I know that's a bad thing for a lot of people, but for me, the fact that I'm able to spend as much time and not be overly bored is amazing to me. You get so many games these days that, they're good games, but 20 hours and that's it. It's over. Spend $60 on a game that, you got 20 hours of enjoyment out of, which, is pretty much par for the course these days. And that's kind of sad to me, because every, $30 I've spent on a WoW title, I get hundreds and hundreds of hours of enjoyment from. So it's, bang for your buck wise, it's still one of the best games in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess it's $15 where you play. It's nice. I like to take almost $1 per hour value when I think about a game that I want to get. Like let's take like Skyrim for example. In this case, you can spend so many hours in the game, but it really costs you. Actually, I don't know how much it costs nowadays, but when it first came out, it was like a good $40-50 game. And that's actually was a deterrent for a while for me actually getting it. But then I got it, and I spent over 3,000 hours in that game.
Yeah.
So, and when you're talking about hour per value and everything, if you're gonna spend 60, I want to get at least 60 hours in a game that I spend $60 on at least before I feel like I'm ultimately bored. But at the same time, most of my gaming experience in video games in general has always come from handhelds because for one thing, it's like the only systems I was ever really had when I was growing up, other than like a Nintendo and a PlayStation when they first came out and the video games were like turn of the century kind of thing. But for the most part, I wasn't able to play those as often, mainly because we only had one television in our house, and my parents would rather like watch TV or do have their own things going over being able for like myself or my brother and my sisters or anybody to even watch like well, not watch but play video games on the TV. So my video game experience is more towards handhelds because of that, or card games in general, just because.
Very good.
Mainly because I ended up playing a lot of funny. I remember reading this little game that I used to. It was kind of like a solo game that you could play with a deck of cards that was more along the lines of. It was kind of like a mix between solitaire and memory.
Okay.
I can barely remember everything about it, but the main concept I was trying to it was like trying to spread the cards out into, I believe it was 9 stacks. And between the nine cards and everything, I only had 3 chances to get them the right color. Because they're red or black. And if they weren't, ideally that would be a 50-50 thing, but because of that, I added the little twist of it had to be within 3 numbers apart from each other. And if I got them, I got to remove them, and then there were new options upon the thing. However, if I couldn't, the next things that I had to remove had to be the opposite color of what I got, and if I couldn't, then technically I'd then either lose the game there and have to restart, or when it came down to the finals, and the only way I truly won the game was if I actually matched not only the colors up, but I also had the numbers of all the what are cards called again? Houses. I had to actually have the houses in a certain number at a certain point. I just don't remember what was the point where I actually made it so that I had to have numbers before I could actually remove the numbers before I could remove them off the board. I think it was somewhere along the once I started getting all the houses like in a separate pile, I had to have the next number to that pile until it completely reverted back to the very last one from that rotation. Example would be like, say the first black club I pulled out was 3. Well, then I'd have to pull off either 2 or 4, and then continue on that rotation until I came all the way to the, like, say if I got 2 and I continued down, I'd go 2 ace, king, queen, jack, all the way back to 4.
Okay.
And it was an extremely hard game, and I was harsh on myself as a kid. But when I played the game too easily, I got bored and was done because it was too fast and too simple.
Right.
And I didn't really have much others. I mean, other than this is like when I ran out of books because I wasn't allowed to check out books because my mom didn't want me to do. Mainly because she didn't just want me to check out books from the library for namesake regions and stuff.
Okay.
Which also falls back to the point where I wasn't supposed to be able to go to that school. That was the reason. That was one of the things. No books. Or checking them
Bit
out.
of an odd criteria.
There's a reason for that, and I'll let you know later on. But it'll make sense later on when you actually find out why. But there's also the I was able to get books from like the city library, however.
Okay.
It's just that the city library, we lived in a log cabin, 57 miles away from what is actually, I think it's like 57. We lived in a place called Canyon Ferry it's off the, it's in Helena County, but it's like way out in the woods of Helena. And it was literally a 1 hour drive through like a jaggedy mountain pass to get into the actual city of Helena, and then maybe another 20-minute drive to actually get into downtown Helena.
Gotcha.
So we'd only ever like make a trip like maybe once a week to once every other week to maybe 3 weeks, and I'm only allowed to like check out like one book at a time for my age, and I read through these books really fast. Generally, I'd actually pretty much be either done with the book because these are still I'm still these are like 50-page kids books maybe. I mean, I just didn't start picking up later bigger books until it dawned on me like, hey, I might be able to enjoy this longer if I get a bigger book, basically. And that's when I started picking up bigger books, but for the most part, I kept on grabbing things. Like, this is when I was reading Animorphs and stuff.
Oh,
and
Animorphs.
I'd be finished with the book before I even got home by reading like what I would while we were at the library. And honestly, my mother did not like public places just in general.
Seems like there's some paranoia there.
Yeah. But anyway, so trying to actually now remember the main part of why we got on this story. That's a big fat ogre. How about I stick an arrow in his face? It hurts so good, Mr. Ogre.
I don't remember the question either.
Oh, this is video. We were on a favorite video game franchise, and you went off on your thing, and I went from why I wasn't able to play games and stuff. I never even answered my question. My answer to this question. And my answer to this question is obviously Pokemon.
Yeah, no real surprise from me here.
Because, yeah, I mean, I like WoW, but it wasn't like my first major video game. I still remember getting my first. I actually still find that also back to the memory thing in Friends. They don't remember their first Pokemon or their first Pokemon game. I remember my first, like, team.
Beedrill, Alakazam, Gengar, Charizard. Who else did I have? Trying to think of the Elite Four. Lapras. And oh shoot. Who was my Sandslash, because he's my favorite Pokemon.
Yeah, my first was Blastoise, and I had a Butterfree, and I had a Pikachu. I had it was blue version. I had a Meowth Persian.
I had blue version too.
I had Pidgeot, and I think the last thing I had was Vaporeon.
How are you? Keep your feet on the
I think
ground.
that's 6. Blastoise, Pikachu, Butterfree, Meowth. Well, Persian technically. Vaporeon. No, I think I'm missing. Oh, Pidgeotto. Okay, yeah. So that is all of them. Of course, I didn't actually realize what things were, and I kept on replaying the game over and over again with different combinations, and only when other people started getting the game around and link cable things. I never actually got into battling one another. I always wanted to collect everything. But then I got sad because if I collected everything, then I just had to do it again when I restart because I only got one game. And then my brother and I eventually traded games because he had red version and we just swapped. And I got to play with other things, and I was sad because I didn't get meows anymore because I like the cat.
And no surprise to you, of course, but you know, Arcanine always
Of
up there.
course. Yep. Arcanine, and because of that, Pokemon channel, Pokemon, all kinds of things. Pokemon icon, mascot. So, yeah. Pokemon. I actually remember, geez, I've already gone through, like, kids started hating Pokemon. Well, I think it was they started hating Pokemon because their parents hated Pokemon, but
Yeah, there's possibly some of that there.
because, yeah, Pokemon didn't get big again until, I don't think it ever got big again in that town, but for me, Pokemon didn't really start coming back until Fire Red and Leaf Green came out. And then I got those games before I even got to play Ruby and Sapphire, and it was even longer before I even got to play Gold and Silver.
Gotcha.
In fact, it was so long, in fact, I got to play Diamond and Pearl before I got to play Gold and Silver.
Really? Interesting.
I mean, we did get them when I was a kid, but that was when my parents started going into the whole bad Pokemon thing. Well, there's another reason, the story behind that, just in general. But it was. But eventually they turned their minds around and said no. Only to me though. My other siblings were able to play it, and it was actually more hilarious because one of my sisters is actually named Misty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we thought that was always funny because we tried. There was a Pokemon trading card game, like online kind of thing, way, way, way back in the day, like the very first version of it. Um, it was only against a computer, I believe, but always thought it was saddening because she actually put the thing that's like put your real name, push your real name. She couldn't because there's like Misty was her real name, but it was a character and. They disregarded Misty as a legitimate name.
That sucks.
That is actually not. It didn't just suck for her. I mean, we eventually I think just went with Anna for her. Just a random name and everything, but it wasn't just her name because my name also got hit too. But I just went with Matt, and that was around the time. Actually, that was before all that. Never mind. My mom, like, literally changed my name to Matt for, like, a few years.
Did not know that.
That was, like, 7th, and this is actually when I was taking, care of, my newest born sister. And I think I know why she did it, too, was, schools questioning what and whatnot. She just wrote me off as basically as if I was another person to try to avoid problems with the school.
Interesting.
And then the school eventually found out and then joined my files back together because there was 2 schools in the area and she basically had me bounce between the 2 of them. That's how I ended up with the second like identification for a while, but then they're like, wait, why is he going to both schools? Especially.
Why were you going to both schools?
My mom's crazy.
Well, that much I've gathered.
Yeah, yeah. I think the main reason is she didn't want to get hit by the fact that I was only going to school maybe once every 2 weeks during
Hmm.
these years because nobody else could watch over the little one.
Right. And where were you living at the time?
This was in Montana where Spirit Walker and I grew up.
Okay. So I
So
can't blame the fantastic California education system on that one, but
no, they had this weird thing where if you went to school, you had to go to school so many days and everything. It's just as long as you passed your tests and everything, you were fine because homework and everything only means for so much. But attendance was also another thing. So I was borderline on like just passing my classes, except for English, which I was able to make up for by doing a lot of book reports, and math, which I just completely blew through with flying colors. But everything else was like barely passing because of certain. At least that was seventh grade. Eighth grade was even more confusing because I know I went to school even less days in eighth grade, and the reason I had to go to the other school. Oh, people are talking to me. Hold on. Yay, 16 days late. Oh, someone's congratulating me on the internet return.
ah,
They're like, but I'm 16 days late. Anyway, the whole reason I had to jump back to the back and forth between the other school is because I think she was afraid that the one school was going to kick me.
well,
Because
that is usually what happens when you don't show up.
and eventually by the end of the but it was before I actually graduated from, I guess, middle school, you would have to say, but we never really had graduation. It's funny because I heard that when I came down here, graduated from eighth grade, and no, it's like no, I passed eighth grade, but it was always just a hilarious thing when I thought about it, because I'm quite sure in eighth grade I counted the school days that I actually went, and I went like 47 days that year. But that was also one of my best school years, period, where I was pretty damn close to straight A's. The sad part is that, yeah, I don't know if you've ever had class trips where you actually go long places and everything. Well, there was a class trip thing that was scheduled for like way before. I think it was like more in the springtime of that year. But what they would do is it was supposed to be like a 1 week trip where they went to Washington and they moved around different cities and they got to see a lot of the sightseeings and everything. I know, I know it's pretty much sounds like it's mimicking like anime school life, like stuff like that. They do stuff like that. But this was literally something they did as well. I'm not sure if Spirit
No,
Walker
I've
ever
I've
got to
done
go.
I've done field trips before.
Yeah, but multi-day field trips, where we got our own hotel rooms and stuff.
Um, once or twice. Not very common though.
Yeah, well, this was one of those things where they would go out for the entire thing would be a week, and I didn't get to go because it was only for kids that actually they told me the reason why is I didn't have enough days going to school. Then again, that
Interesting.
didn't. A lot of the kids treated me like crap anyway, so I didn't. I'm just saddened more now that I never got to experience these things because I see it a lot of the times in like animes and stuff. It's like we had that, but I was told I couldn't go for so and so reasons. That if I did go to school a lot more, I probably wouldn't have a little sister right now. Is what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I sacrificed quite a bit and whatnot. So, and it just saddens me later on in life, should I say? At the time, I really didn't care because I pretty much hated everybody in the school.
Yeah, I
I
can see that.
mean, I remember like a few times coming to school, and they never got in trouble for this, but they would egg me
Oh, jeez.
because it
Yeah,
was funny, and the teachers just was like, walk it off.
that's called bullying. You should do something about it as a teacher.
Well, one teacher just
That's a
thought
creeper. Gosh dang it.
the teacher that a lot of the teachers, and I know mainly because this one teacher, uh, actually managed to pretty much get everybody, a lot of my other teachers just convinced in general that I'm skipping school because I'm pretty much a delinquent.
Mm,
And the reason they egged me and everything is because I had my bangs dyed at this point. Because I actually just liked the idea of having dyed hair and everything, and mom didn't actually care.
right.
So and everything, and the guy making fun. It looks like I just have egg on my hair, and so they just tried to peg me with a bunch of eggs.
Kids suck.
Later on in life, I actually thought it was hilarious when I actually figured out what manga was a little bit more in Shonen Jump, and then Hikaru no Go showed up, like, and some of my other friends, because I was down here in California at this point, and they're all like, "Did you just know about this or something?" Or I have no idea. It's just funny because I started dyeing my hair like that back because when I was very little, I had like long hair for like the most part of my life, and then I dyed it. Well, I came down to California once because I would come every summer, and my grandparents allowed me to dye it. Like it was around when Pokemon actually started taking off and everything. So, and then I came and back. Mom was sad, but it was whatever after a while, and so I just had dyed hair for for a majority of the time. Then I'd re-dye it because I figured out how to dye it on my own and work up some amount of money to actually go get the hair dye, which actually wasn't that expensive. But at the same time, I'm surprised I didn't burn my hair out
Well,
because I was pretty much just going off the instructions like my grandparents, my dad left me. And I also knew how to read, so I could read the instructions pretty well. So it's just now that I think about back on it and just dyeing my hair since I was that little, it was like, huh. And then eventually I lopped off all my hair, mainly because, kids, again,
right.
they thought it'd be funny to smear my hair with certain stuff. And it hardened and turned into pretty much a brick, and so I didn't want people to know about certain things, like parents and whatnot, so I literally took a razor to my head.
Gotcha.
So I went bald for a while, but it didn't actually last that long, because I've told you how crazy my hair grows, so...
Yeah.
and whatnot, and then afterwards when my hair started growing out and normalizing and everything, I shaped it more like because you gotta understand that was like one of the weirdest experiences for me in general, because I was used to like having hair that went like down to the back of my knees to completely bald.
Oh, wow.
For like my entire life, mainly because my hair, I was literally born with a lot of hair, so it was all curly when I was like very little. But after they cut it, also it was a different color when I was born too, because there was complications. But it darkened later on. But anyway, after it changed color and they cut it, it actually just stayed straight and flat. But it actually, after it grows to a certain length, and now after I've like shaved it off and everything, it starts to curl again.
Interesting.
it's weird. So I can't really grow my hair out that long anymore. The funny thing about it is that my brother was never allowed to grow out his hair and everything, and he always had to have like short, like very very short hair and like that. And now he has hair that goes past his knees. He just wears it in a ponytail
Well-
all the time now. So it's like we kind of traded.
See, that's one of those weird things that parents do is they say no to kids, and then when the kids grow up, they're like, "Hey, I don't have to listen to you."
Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
Taking that, mammy. But, looking at the time, it's past the 2-hour mark. It's also pretty late at night here, so I think we're gonna call it.
Come, stop.
Alrighty.
I have many
So, thanks
attributes
everybody for
that you
watching, and, yeah, if you have any suggestions, go ahead and comment them down. If you have any questions yourself, go ahead and comment them down. Failfurby's information will be linked down below as well if you ever want to look him up either on Twitter or his YouTube channel, which I was actually going to ask you, but we kind of ran out of time here. You changed your YouTube channel name on. I was like, oh, that's changed.
Yeah, I decided to make it more of a channel brand than just like my username, so I kind of did a little play on words of my my name and a couple other things. So yeah.
I just got on a mechanical chicken and it's taking off like a butt rocket, just shooting through all of Lockbodon right now. So I have no idea what's happening. But
Lol.
yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.
Later.